Okay, I'm going to record this. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to part 2 of my series. This is how to be resilient and reach your goals. And as I was setting up for this today, I decided to come downstairs. Normally I'm upstairs in my office, but I wanted to come downstairs. Welcome everybody. Welcome to part 2 of my series. Sorry, this is how to be up on YouTube on my other tab. So that means we're live streaming on YouTube, and I just muted myself over there. All right. So I decided to come downstairs because one of the things as we think about resilience is we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And I realized, oh, like one of the things that makes me so tired a lot is like I put a pressure on myself to show up in a certain way, in a certain location. Like this is what I have to do. So I want you to think about that for you. Like, what pressure are you putting on yourself right now? And how is that relating to your ability to continue to show up? So today I wanted to do kind of a casual training, kind of a casual teaching based on the last training. So if you're popping on here and you were on the last one, great. You're in the perfect spot. If you haven't been on the last one and you're like, "Hey, I'm just here because I saw the replay or because I got an email," welcome. You're not going to be missing out on anything. But let's just start with a general recap of where we were at before, where we were at last time we were talking about resilience. And essentially, we were talking about the 5 things that you need to create resilience. And it's important to know and understand what resilience is as well. So I just pulled up the definition of resilience. I think that'll be helpful for you. And I'll read it to you again and again until you really understand it. Resilience is the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties or toughness. It's also the ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape, elasticity, right? So, as you think about this, think about where in your life you have been resilient, either this year or in the past decade or in the past 30 years, and type it into the chat because I think it's really important to remember what you've already been through. And what I see a lot of times is they'll almost reach a fatigue point and they'll be like, I've already withstood so much in my life. My life's already been so hard. I've already had to be so tough. And they start to get to a point where they're like, I don't want to be tough anymore. I don't want to be strong. I don't want to have to be resilient. I don't want things to feel so hard. And so if that's you, I want you to know I see you. I understand. I've been there. I was there this year. Like I was there this year where like it shouldn't be so hard for me. Like I've already done so many hard things, right? Let me just check the chat. Uh yes. I've been so resilient to money challenges. Yes. Realizing it's not actually about money. Yes. And I've made it through all of it. Yes. And I think the big areas that really challenge us are relationships, money, health, finances, right? Or money and finance are the same. Or like career, business, right? Those are the big 4 where they really challenge us because we make it mean something about us. So today I'm going to teach off of Tony Robbins because it's so simple, his framework, but it's not necessarily easy. But I want to just give you like let's just sit here and talk about the 3 things that Tony Robbins says creates the ability for you to change your life. The first one is changing your story. The second one is changing your state. And the third one is changing your strategy. Okay. And I'll define these all in a moment. But for those of you who are thinking, like, I've already had to be so resilient, so tough, so strong for my entire life, like, when can I catch a break? When is it going to get easier? Here's how I've been coached through this. And here's how I coach myself through this. If life and your circumstances are challenging you, then you are meant to grow into whatever's happening. Meaning you are meant to grow into the more powerful version of you that can overcome anything. So this just means you haven't reached your level yet. This just means you haven't tapped into that next level of your potential yet. So if you are coming up against a challenge, what typically will happen is, after you go through the pity and the poor me and, oh, I'm so sad, or this is so hard, or I'm depressed, or I'm so anxious. Typically, what you will find at rock bottom, this is what I know to be true for human beings, is you get to that rock bottom of, okay, I'm either going to give up or you find your spark again. You find your grit, you find your purpose, you find your determination. You find this fuck it energy where you're like, I'm just going to dig in. Like I am just going to dig in because I know how to do that. I've done that before. I know how to do that and I'm going to do it on a more profound level. And when you get to that energy of like, I'm just going to dig in, like I'm going to go for this because what else do I have to lose? I'm already at rock bottom. And one of my favorite books is called The Power. It's written by Rhonda Byrne, and it's the same author of the book The Secret. But essentially, what she talks about is like, perfect. If you're already at rock bottom, guess what? The only way to go is up. And all you need to do now is make 1% shift in the direction of positivity, in the direction of courage, in the direction of focus, in the direction of determination, power, purpose. And that 1% shift compounded over time will help you to create new results and to start shifting your circumstances in the real world. So if you're at rock bottom, just say great. Just say good. One of the podcasts I listen to is Jocko, and he always says, you're having a hard time financially? Good. Your boss just fired you? Good. And it's interesting that psychology, good, right? It allows you to just accept what is and then decide how you're going to move forward moment by moment, day by day. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed on how much there is to do or how much growth you need to have. Only focus on one step at a time, one day at a time, right? Okay. I'm check the chat. By learning how to be okay no matter what shows up. Yes. It's actually the secret to life. So many people want their circumstances to change. And a lot of what we do in coaching is actually coming up with strategies to change our circumstances, right? Like maybe I need to get a new job. Maybe I need to make more money. Maybe I want to start dating somebody, right? Whatever it is, we can change a lot of those circumstances, but it actually always starts with accepting what is. And most people don't want to hear that. It always starts with accepting what is, with exactly where you are right now, finding sufficiency and safety with where you are right now, right? Yes. In the comments, it's an opportunity to grow into a new frequency of self. Yes. And isn't it so interesting, right? Thinking of a seed, like a seedling. And if you've ever planted seeds in the spring, or if you ever planted a garden, that seed looks like it's doing nothing. Like it looks like it's doing nothing for weeks. And then all of a sudden, like you see this little sprout that pops up. And then over the next week, it like grows so quickly. But the whole time it was like fighting, right? Like pressing against that pressure of the soil. And it was doing so much growth till it broke through the surface. So just remember that might be where you are, and that's okay. A seed doesn't judge itself for being a seed. It just is. That is just what it is, right? Yes. And not making it mean anything about my worth or value as a person. Yes. Period. Period. Yes. Oh, I love it. And we're having celebrations in the chat. Huge breakthrough recently, and my spark returned. Yes. Decided it was time to stop with the backstroke in my pity pool. Yes. And this is why I decided to do multiple, like the same training multiple times, is because in order to be resilient, it's not just like one thing that you hear. It is tapping in and tuning in repeatedly over and over again until your brain starts to think differently. And I'll give you an example, and then we'll go back into the training of Tony Robbins, the three tips. But I had, let's just say 2023. I was thinking about this today. I was at the gym working out today, and I really was feeling good. Like I wasn't lifting heavy, but I was feeling good. I was able to do some box jumps. And the reason I say this is because I was really thinking about, okay, I'm 40 years old now. Prior to being a life coach, I was a health and fitness coach. And over the past 2 years, so since 2023, I remember like February of 2023, my body started shutting down, right? Like I turned 38 and my body was just like, fuck you. I had joint pain. I had back issues. I had knee issues. I had shoulder issues. Like every issue from being an athlete for 20 years was just like popping up in my body. And then I had gut issues and I had serotonin and dopamine issues. I was having depression, anxiety. Like it just was compounding. So the only thing I could do was like walking and gentle yoga. And as a result, right, of hormonal changes, of inflammation, I gained 25 pounds. And I thought about this. I was thinking about this because I'm prepping for a photo shoot and I have a lot of thoughts about it. The first photographer that I ever did a photo shoot with reached out to me recently. This is 15 years ago. The very first photo shoot. And I remember showing up to that photo shoot thinking I was too fat. Like I was still too fat. And back then, I was like 16% body fat, like in my 20s. Like I looked great. And it was interesting as I'm preparing for this photo shoot now being 40, right? And I think women have a unique perspective on aging. I definitely think we have a lot more societal pressures. But I was thinking about like prepping for this photo shoot and I really wanted everything to be perfect. And I wanted to get my hair done. I wanted to like do all these things. And I wanted to have all this stuff. And I really was putting a lot of pressure on myself to like get this right and to get this perfect. And then as I was thinking about my health and fitness, I was like, oh, I had to go through these challenges. Like, this isn't something that I get to skip over just because I was a health coach. Like, I still have to go through the same changes physiologically inside my body as all women do as they edge up into their 40s and 50s and beyond. So, again, like coming back to not making it about myself, but for a while, I was really throwing a pity party. I was like, I should be able to be more disciplined. Like, I should be able to work out more instead of just questioning, like, can I accept and love myself right now at this age, at this weight? And can I also become a person who's curious about solutions? And so over the past 2 years, I have been adamant about finding people to support my health. And the reason why I say this is because I celebrated that with myself today because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so much better in my body compared to what I did 2 years ago." Like I have really found some supplements that have helped me. Now I'm still not where I want to be. I still have some more tests to do, but I'm so much better than I was 2 years ago. And I've just decided like this decade is going to be a wise decade where I embody wisdom. And it's also going to be a decade where I plan, I'm strategic, and I think and focus on the long game. Whereas, like in my 20s and 30s, I was very much focused on like today. What are we going to do today? How do I make money today? Right? Can I get my workout done today? So I want you to reflect upon your past decade and think about, like if I was just reflecting and doing an evaluation, what worked, what didn't work, what would I do differently? This is one of the main key components of things that'll change your life, right? As I start to reflect back on my health, I'm like, oh, some of it was hormonal for sure, but some of it was stress. And then because of stress and telling myself I didn't have time, because I was very busy in my business, like my business grew very quickly in 2023, like to the point where I couldn't keep up with it. But the only reason why is because I tell myself I don't have time, I have too many clients, and I started eating Chick-fil-A all the time, and then I started not be able to sleep, and then I started to get really stressed out. Like I thought all my clients depended on me. And I realized like, oh, none of that was created by my business. My business didn't do that to me. It was my thoughts that I was having about it. And then now I can just evaluate like, oh, anytime I tell myself I don't have time or I don't have enough money or I need to make money today, that always creates stress for me. And it's never a good look. It's never something that's going to be helpful or beneficial for me. So if I evaluate, I can say, oh, what will I do in the future? I will tell myself I always have time. And I will be very strategic with my time. I will always be booking the things that are important. I will always be booking downtime and rest time. And I will not obsess over my clients when I'm not working. That's what I was doing. That's what was making me so exhausted. Okay. All right. I'm going to check the comments over here. And I see people tuning in on Instagram too. I've come so far in the past 10 years. I'm a whole new person in the best way. Yes. So always looking at where we've come is very, very helpful. What happened recently was a closing of a huge era. Yes. And for those of you who are into astrology, if you're watching me, you're probably into it, like you probably are into astrology and you're probably into synchronicities and spirit and intuition. So I recently found out, like, I didn't know this all year because I was literally in the thick of it all year, like in my head, clawing my way back. And like, I just didn't even have awareness of like, when is the full moon? When is the new moon? Like, I just wasn't able to keep track of these things until recently. And so I found out recently on Instagram this year, 2025, is the year of the snake, which is all about shedding, releasing, letting go. So if you're having things that have been coming up for you that are hard, that are almost like things from your past where you're like, wait, didn't I already deal with this? Like, didn't I already get coaching on this? Didn't I already have this breakthrough? Like, why is this coming back again? Like, why is this old version of me coming back again? That's what happened with me this year. I like the way I was thinking and the patterns I was having, and just like the way my body was feeling, and like how my brain could only find the worst case scenario. I was like, wait, that was like me in my early 20s, like when I was so negative. And that was like way before I even found coaching. Like, who is this person coming back? But really, it came back for me to revisit, right? Like 2015 was when I got fired for the first time. If you know my story, you know I've been fired 3 times. But that was like very, very painful for me. And then 2013 was the first year I started my website and like decided like, hey, I want to like do an online business thing. So on one hand, I had a lot of negative thoughts starting out my business. But on the other hand, like I've built a 6-figure business in 12 months. And what I mean is when I say 6 figures, it means 100K in a 12-month period, right? In the past 12 years, I haven't added the past 12 years, but in the past 4 years, I've created over 400K. So I'm probably close to like 750K in the last 10 to 12 years, revenue wise. Now, that may not sound impressive for some of you, but for me, it's impressive because a lot of us will just continue. Well, actually, I'll say this to continue to stay stuck in the same pattern and the same story and with the same strategy, which leads to us giving up. And so, if you're still here and you're still digging in deep, that is proof and evidence that you are resilient, that you have the ability and the capacity to continue to show up. So, let's get into the 3 tips. All right, I just found Human Design reading from 3 years ago and understood it so much more deeply today. Yes, isn't that interesting? We can have so much information, but we may not be resonant with us until we're ready for it. Okay, so let's talk about Tony Robbins' 3 3 tips, 3 ways to change your state. I don't know why I figure out what to say here. Really the 3 things that he puts on a triangle. Like, this is what you need to do to change your life. The first one is to change your story. So first of all, like we talked about in the last training, like step 1 to creating change is awareness, right? And a lot of my clients are very aware. Like, they're very self-aware. Like, yep, I keep doing it. Yep, keep doing the same thing. Yep, I get really mad when this happens. Yep, I pity myself. Yep, I just keep procrastinating, right? But that's not the type of awareness that's going to get us anywhere, because typically that awareness is also attached to some type of self-judgment, right? Where you're like, I don't know why I keep doing this. Oh, I'm so stupid. I'm so dumb. I can't figure this out. Like, you may not be saying that out loud, but like subconsciously, you're like, why haven't I figured this out yet? Or what's wrong with me? So if you're ever asking those questions, you're never going to get a good answer. So if you're asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? Why is it taking me so long to figure this out? When am I going to start making money? How am I going to put this together? The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. So if those are the type of the questions you're asking, you're never going to get good answers, which means you're not going to be able to move forward with good results. So the story, when you have awareness about the story you've been telling yourself, and then you can change the story into something empowering that you also still believe, then this will be the thing that changes everything for you. So I'll give you an example. I got coached on this multiple times. And I'll tell you, sometimes we can have an instant breakthrough, like literally in 7 minutes. Like I got coaching, I got a 7 minute breakthrough before. I've had breakthroughs just listening to podcasts or YouTube, just like this, right? Like just listening to something, I'll have a mindset shift, I'll have a breakthrough. Then there's other things that takes months or years for you to like embody it, for it to actually be go from breakthrough to embodiment, right? And embodiment is you like not just knowing something, right? There's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is like, yeah, I know it. I read the book. I remember I had this client once. I was coaching her on business and making money. And I remember I like sent her this, like I broke down maybe like 20 podcasts from my mentor. I like really like my mentor's podcast. And I said, here's all the podcasts you can listen to around sales, around marketing, around mindset, around making money. And then she came back, she was like, yeah, I listened to them. And I was like, what do you mean you listened to them? Like, you just listened to them and you didn't have a breakthrough and you didn't take an action? She's like, no, yeah, they were like, they were good. And I'm like, what? What's happening here? For me, when I listen to something, I embody it and put it into action. I'm like, okay, I hear my coach say something and then I go out and do something. Like I take an aligned action with it. So I was thinking about like, what's the difference between me and other people that has me going like, I'm going to listen, I'm going to have the breakthrough, then I'm going to take the action. Like I'm going to take an aligned action that embodies the wisdom of the thing I just learned, even if I do not have a clue what I'm doing. And I was thinking about what that really is. And for me, I went to school and I have a degree in molecular cell biology, in which case we would always do laboratory experiments. And I remember one of my classes, Dr. Walland, who has since passed away, but he was such a positive, influential, like I only was with him for a semester, but he was so positive, so influential. Like he went for a run on his lunch break every day and he always said, "How are you?" And he's like, "I'm glad to be alive." Like he was just such a positive person. At the time, I could not understand it. I was just like, "What is wrong with you?" This is before I was a life coach. I was just so negative. But the one thing that I was really good at was labs. Because in the labs, you would have instructions, like you would have directions on how to perform the lab, and then you would have a hypothesis. So you say, like, I think this is going to happen based on this, and you would have a hypothesis, and you would go test it. And then the entire point of your lab notebook was an accurate, detailed journal description of exactly what you did, step 1 to step 45. And then you did a conclusion at the end. Now, sometimes your hypothesis, I'm trying to think of like any specific ones we did. Mm, I'm just going to use a plant one because that's all I can think of. Like, I remember one time I tiny these, like we planted these tiny, tiny seeds. It was so like they were so tiny. And you put them in different environments, right? So you put them in low light, put them in high light, like, and you just decide like 4 hours light, 6 hours light, right? And then you make a hypothesis saying, like, well, I think the one with 6 hours of light is going to grow the fastest. And then you test it. And then you measure and you see like if that was true. But then something might go wrong where you're like, oh, I see, like at the end of the experiment, you don't get the results. You're like, well, actually, the 6 hour light didn't grow as tall as I thought. And then I noticed and I looked in the soil and I saw that the soil developed fungus. And then in your conclusion, you might say, I think that fungus also grows more quickly in high light conditions. And even though my plant's growing more quickly, if I want to keep my plant alive, I actually think I need to do it under 4 hours. So if I was going to retest this, my hypothesis would be let me retest it with 4 hour light, right? And see if that changes anything. Or you might say, my hypothesis is we need to add an antifungal to the soil, right? I'm just making this up. But my point is, I was so good at keeping my lab notes. I was so good at saying, like, here's where I think we went wrong. Here's what I think we'll do next time. And I still have this lab notebook. I remember it's in my storage unit, I think. I got 100% on this lab notebook, not because I got all the labs correct, not because all my hypotheses were correct, but because I documented what I think didn't work, what I think I'll do differently next time. I documented everything immaculately. And the reason I bring this up is because I got coaching on this about my business. So my business exploded in 2023. I hit the six-figure mark, and I also hit burnout. And that's when all the things with my health were going on. That's when I was having panic attacks. Actually, no, that was just when I was like feeling super exhausted. I pushed my way through 2023. Then 2024 was when I launched some new things in my business. I had high expectations, high hopes. I was like, this is it, 30K months every month from here on out, for sure. That did not happen. It was very painful for me. It was very painful for me. Panic attacks, depression, burnout, just like, what's the point? So, like, all of 2024 was just me like fighting to like live my life and survive, like to literally wake up. And then 2025 was me fighting my way back to like, can I become a person that thinks positively again? Can I become a person who believes in myself again? And I've gotten several rounds of coaching from my mentors. And one of them was like reminding me that everything we do is a hypothesis. And so the story I was telling myself was like, I keep failing. What's wrong with me? I keep failing. This isn't working. Instead of, oh, I had a hypothesis that when I launched this thing, I would make $30,000 months. That was not the result I got. So let me go back and reiterate what worked, what didn't work, what will I do differently? And the story I started to tell myself with some coaching was I'm willing to go out there and experiment, to execute, and to evaluate over and over again. I go first, I go often, I go with purpose. And how do you think I developed that mindset? Now, coaching. But the other thing is, all day long, I will literally say about 5 hours a day, I'm listening to my coach. She's got her replays on a podcast, in a login, in a portal. I listen to those replays 5 hours a day. So that's like 25 hours a week that I'm listening to a millionaire mind. So I highly recommend, if you need to change your story, you've got to be listening to somebody who's telling a better story than your brain is telling. Okay? Step number one. You can also do this as a journaling practice, right? When I was really depressed, really defeated, really down on myself, I couldn't journal. So I'm going to tell you, like, do whatever you can do today. For me, it was like, get up and go for a walk, listen to a podcast, listen to a book, listen to an audio, tell a different story. Now, as a journaling practice, you can tell a story of, why am I glad? Why am I grateful? Why am I in acceptance of this result? Right? Whether it's getting broken up with, getting fired, uh, not having the money you want to have. Like, why am I in acceptance of this result? And then who am I becoming as I evaluate this result? Thinking about, okay, this is the result I got, then who am I becoming as I evaluate? I'm going to evaluate, I'm going to execute, I'm going to hypothesize, I'm going to go out and do it again, experiment over and over again. And the more quickly you can tell a new story, the more quickly you can get into an action that will get you a different result. So, listening to things, writing things down, journaling a love story to yourself, telling yourself you've got this, reminding yourself who you are, reminding yourself who you've been, thinking about stories and power of overcoming anytime you've tapped into more faith, more resilience, more courage. Tell yourself those stories, right? I keep going back to my story of when I had a negative bank account in 2022, then I turned around within the next 6 months and ended up making 100K. So when I'm thinking about like, oh, poor me, right? Getting into that pity story and like, well, it didn't work how I thought. I just go back to like, oh, I've been here before. And here's what I did. I know how to do this. I know how to shift. I know how to come back when I feel like my back is against a wall. So you can use other people's stories. You can use your stories. You can use stories of the human condition, right? Start listening to people who have been in dire, dire circumstances and they've tapped into their mental strength in order to keep moving forward. Okay. All right. So that's number one, telling a better story. Number two, changing your state, right? So we got to change our story. Now we got to change our state. So state is the way that we feel on the day to day. So this can be emotions, this can be feelings, but all of this is related to our thoughts. So I've mentioned when I look back at how I got to my health issues, my mental health issues in the past 2 years, I think about like what were the things I couldn't control, right? Some of those things, like hormonally, I couldn't control. They were going to happen anyway. But now I realize there are some things I could do to control that, right? Like I can get good sleep. I started to research things about sleep, about light, about supplements, about things to do that help your hormones, right? So like now I have a better awareness. Then I just didn't know. But your state is related to your physiologic state, what is going on in your biology, in your body, in your neurotransmitters, in your hormones, in your gut, right? All of it. And what thoughts are you thinking all the time? Because your thoughts change your state. So, one of the most powerful things that Tony Robbins says, which is why if you've ever been to any of his events, he has these big events called Unleash the Power Within. It's 4-day events. You are on your feet all day, 14 hours a day, and you literally have music pumping and you are jumping up and down. I got 10,000 steps a day from standing in one place to jumping. The quickest way to change your state is by moving your body. Now, paradoxically, if you're feeling in a low vibration, if you're feeling down, depressed, pitiful, you're not accessing your highest self, like you're not going to want to move, period. So I know that this isn't like again, this is simple, but it's not easy. But as soon as you can get into a habit of moving your body, even for a couple minutes at a time, you will notice that your state will shift because emotion comes from motion. And the physiology in the body is going to tell us what to do, right? So if you think about it, if you're going to be depressed, what would you do, right? You hunch down, put your head down, shoulders in, kind of look down, speak slowly. Then think about if you were excited. What would you do if you were excited, if you were joyful, if you were in gratitude, right? If you had something to look forward to, you might jump up and down. You might be like, oh my gosh, yes. You might put your hands up in the air. You might put your hands on your heart and be like, I'm so much gratitude. But whatever you're doing with your body is going to animate how you're feeling. So for me, I recognize that my state was highly affected by the couch. Yes. Christina says, I walked on fire with Tony. So did I. How amazing is that? You can actually change your physiologic state to where you can walk across hot coals without getting burned. Thousands of people are doing this every single year at his events. Now, for me, with my state, I called it the couch demon. Like the demon that wanted me to stay on the couch because it knew if it could keep me on the couch locked to the TV, it could program my mind with stories and it would keep me stuck in a low vibrational state of just laying on the couch, being on my phone, watching the TV. And I'm not going to lie, this was a hard pattern to break. But one of the things that helped me to break it was having a morning yoga routine. So I found a 6 a.m. sunrise yoga class, required me to get up at 5:20 a.m., which was not easy, but that helped me to go to bed earlier because I had to get up early. And then it helped me to move my body early in the morning. So if you can get in movement in the morning, it will help change your state for the entire day. And then compounded results over time will end up changing your life, right? And you want to do it small, little baby steps at a time, okay? Another way to change your state, put on a song and stand up and just say, I'm going to put this song on for 3 minutes. I'm going to stand and I'm just going to wiggle or I'm just going to shake. I'm not even going to make myself dance. I'm just going to wiggle. I'm just going to huff and puff, right? And of course, another thing I always teach is breath work, right? Anything you do with your breath, horse's breath, anything you do with your shoulders, shrugging up and down, anything you do tapping wise, like it's not hard. If you want to be resilient, you want to be willing to find anything, right? You want to be willing to say, I'm willing to do whatever to change my state on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, right? Okay. Now, lastly, so we change our story, we change our state. Lastly, we change our strategy. Now, part of this comes from evaluation, which I talked about. You can evaluate on your own. I teach evaluation to my clients. However, what I've seen is a lot of times we're so stuck in shame that we don't want to evaluate because we go back to a story that's like, see, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I made this mistake. It feels too painful. I feel shame, I'm judging myself. So, in order for you to get a new strategy, you have to be willing to love and accept yourself. You have to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to objectively look at this and try a new strategy. Then I'm going to evaluate it again and again. Now, the reason that coaching helps you with this is because we get to talk about what worked, what didn't work, what will I do differently every single week. And you have an actual area where we can talk about it. Because I know, even me, I don't always want to do my evaluations. It feels good to do your evaluations and everything's going right. But if you're not getting the results you want month after month after month after month, it doesn't feel as good to look at what's not working, right? You're like, I'm trying so many things, it's not working. But each thing that you try, each awareness that you have is going to get you closer and closer to the goal if you've already changed your story and you've changed your state, right? Because here's what happens. A lot of times we don't realize we got a story going on that is affecting our strategy. I'll give you an example. This has happened to me too. I'm going to tell you what to do at it. So a lot of people right now, the algorithm on social media is not showing their stuff. And then they will have a thought like, I need to get better at Instagram. I need to get better at social media. Like, I need to learn the secret formula. I need to learn hooks and reels. I need to learn this strategy. And I watched myself this week, actually, no, this month. I watched myself this month almost be sold into a bunch of these Instagram programs. Not a bunch, but I think there was two different ones or three different ones. And I was like, I need to figure out Instagram. Now, mind you, I've already invested in an Instagram course. It was $1,400. I do not think it was the best ROI. I do not think it was the best return on investment for me. And here's why. I did it back in like 21 or 22. It taught me the algorithm, but it taught me what to do in 21 and 22. So if you think about it, I would just have to keep investing in figuring it out, the algorithm and the hooks and how to do it and how to get engagement over and over again. Coming from the thought of I'm not doing something right, this isn't working for me, versus the thought, I already know how to make six figures. I've done it. I've made six figures in 12 months. I know how to do it. How did I do it? I did it from thinking what I teach is valuable. Everybody would want to hear from me. 3 minutes of my brain is extremely valuable. Everybody wants to coach with me. I'm going to continue to make offers because there's one person out there looking for what I have right now. Like those were the 5 thoughts that built six figures for me. Actually, I have a list. I have a list. It's called 100 thoughts to 100K. There's 100 thoughts that I had, but I repeated them over and over and over again. So remember, your strategy is always going to be based on your thinking. And if your thinking is shitty and your story is shitty, you're going to keep using strategies that are shitty. I did it another time. I went and invested in a $12,000 program thinking I needed to learn webinars, thinking I needed to learn this like specific partner thing that was somehow going to take me to the quick lane of 50K months. It did not get me the results that was promised. However, I look at that as a $12,000 lesson on if I would have stuck to what I know, this is how I know how to get results, do more of what's working. Don't listen to the story. Don't listen to the ads that keep telling you do these other things, right? Money is made with your mind, period. That's what I know. When I lock into that, I make more money. So whatever this is for you, whether it's your health, your relationship, your finances, your career, your business, you want to go back to what's working, do more of that. And then you want to sparingly, right? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. I've done that multiple times where I put all my eggs in one basket and then my revenue drops. Or all or nothing thinking, right? I'm going to go all in. I had a client who went all in on running. Then they ended up hurting their knee and they're like, well, I'm not running anymore. But this happened to multiple clients. I'm like, listen, you're over 40. There really is, after 40, there's not an all in on your fitness. The all in on your fitness is like boring things like stretching and taking supplements and doing red light therapy, right? Like they're more boring things as a holistic approach to your health. Same way with your business. You're not going to do something dramatic. There's not going to be a course or a thing that's going to overnight your success. Now, even me, the one thing that overnighted my success was one of my coach's programs. It was a $2,000 program, and it did, I'm not gonna say overnight my success. It still took me from the end of 2021, 21, 22. It took me about 3 years from the first time I invested in her program and implemented it and did all the things I'm saying, right? Every single day, changed my story, made sure I had a good story, changed my state. Number 3, went out, stuck to the strategy I know was working, and then added new strategies and evaluated those strategies. Still took me 3 years to get to 6 figures. So my quick overnight success came from 3 years of implementing that same strategy. The reason I say this is because a lot of people will keep looking for quick fixes. They will keep looking for the thing that makes them feel good. And this is how we end up investing in these small little programs. Like I've done this where there's a $29 thing, there's a $37 thing, there's a $67 thing, there's a $600 thing for like the year, whatever it is. And we're always looking for the deal that's going to like, it's not too much of investment, but like we still hope it's like a gamble. Like we hope it's going to pay off for us. And what I've seen is anytime I've done that for myself, it has been, I don't want to use the word disappointment because I don't think that's true. I think it was like looking back on myself, I was okay, desperation is the word. Like I was seeking something out of desperation to fix my problem, to fix my challenge. Like I invested like $97 in it or $197 in like a Pinterest course years ago, right? We don't want to be making decisions based out of desperation, based out of like, this is the duct tape that I need to like fix or hold my life together. The reason I always recommend to anyone who wants to change something is to start with what's going on in your mind, is because this is the only thing that's going to lead to a new strategy. Because I've seen this time and time again where people go into courses, somebody's teaching them a strategy, but the strategy is not working for them because of their thoughts about the strategy. So when I went into this $12,000 course, it was teaching webinars. All that was happening inside this course was a bunch of people were complaining about how was it working for them. Now, I wasn't one of them. I was realizing like, oh, part of this is this doesn't align. Like I'm not willing to do some of the work. And I took ownership of that. I was like, not willing to do like the exact thing that she's telling us to do. But I got value on this other thing here, like learning this webinar format. Like, was it worth $12,000 to learn? Not really. But when I made that decision, I made it out of desperation. I made it out of like, I need somebody to teach me how to make 50K in the next 3 months so that I can spend time in the woods, because if I can't spend time in the woods, I'm not happy. And what I prefer, and this is what speaks to resilience, it's not to say that we can't have time freedom. We can't just have free days where we spend time in the woods. I'm not saying you can't live your dream, but there's something about desperation and the desire to have it right now. Instead of saying, I'm willing to commit as long as it takes to become the person who has the resilience, who takes aligned action, who is the embodiment of the person who has the thing that they want. Like, I am willing to keep figuring this out, even if it takes 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, because I am here for the journey. And I have learned through coaching how to be happy where I am. Before I have the money, before I have the new car, before I have the new house, before I have the new relationship. And that is 100% the purpose of coaching, is for you to be in acceptance so that you're not fighting your current life. It's not to say we're not going to change. It's not to say we're not going to grow. It's not going to say we're not going to work on creating new results. But when you're creating it from a place of I'm fighting where I am, I don't want to be where I am, now you're taking so much energy to fight where you are versus taking that energy to focus on changing your story, changing your state, changing your strategy, being able to think logically from a place of groundedness, from a place of I will be okay no matter what. I will figure it out no matter what. This is the grounded sense of identity that aligns with wisdom that will allow you to succeed in any area. This is the thing that allows you to say, hey, I think it's time like for me to set down my business. Like I think it's time for me to go do something else. Like this season has passed. And I've been there and coached several clients who have sold their businesses or stepped aside from the business or went and took a VP role in another company, just saying like, hey, I've done what I've done with my business and I'm good now. Like not having to identify with it. I've coached other people who like really, really didn't know if they wanted to be in their marriage, wanted to make it work, kind of wanted to get divorced, was going back and forth, going back and forth. And we got to a place of, I can be happy staying in my marriage. I know how to do that. And I can be happy leaving it. And when I choose to, it will be for very sound reasons. It'll be because I want to, not because I'm running from something. Same thing with a job. If I don't like the job, I'm going to learn how to be content, still at the job, not reactive, not fighting with my boss, not talking about it to my spouse every single night and making my entire life miserable. I'm going to be in acceptance of my job's role. I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my work. I'm going to not create any excessive drama when I get home and keep talking about it. And then from a clean and grounded place, I'm going to decide, do I want to continue this lifestyle for the next 3, 6 months to a year? And then if the answer is no, then you start logically making a transition into something else. So the point of resilience is it cannot coexist with this sense of fight or flight. And so when you think about fight or flight, which we touched on in the last call, fight or flight is related to a dysregulated nervous system. And I think most of us have heard of this. Everybody's been talking about having dysregulated nervous systems. But essentially what it is you're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? So fight or fight, we know what that is like anxiety. It's like doing all the things to try to get out of your situation. Fight or flight is like running away. Let me avoid it. Let me not look at my problems. Freeze is like, I cannot do anything. Like it's so overwhelming. I'm stuck. And then fawn is like, let me people please my way out of this. Right? Let me try to appease people. Let me take away my power for myself. And so part of regulating your nervous system is having a safe space to co-regulate. And part of having a coach every week is your safe space to go. When your spouse, when your husband, when your partner, when your best friend, like when any of them are triggering you or you cannot have a conversation with them, they will not understand you. They're not trained to hold space for you in a non-judgmental way, right? They're either going to try to give you advice or they're going to gaslight you and be like, it's not that bad, or you should be grateful because there's starving children in Africa, right? Like human beings don't really know how to hold space. They weren't trained to do that. They are trained to like think about them, talk about them. Maybe they're trained to be funny, to try to lighten the mood. Maybe they're not trained to like be in heavy, deep situations with you. So the purpose of having a coach is to co-regulate, is to have a safe space where you can be with your emotions, you can reground yourself, you can tap back into what you can control. And then you make a plan, a very simple and doable plan. Like, what am I in control of today? What action can I take today? And what's the thought that I'm going to think on purpose today? So if you've got value out of this training today, the next step for you is to reach out to me to book a free consultation. If you've never had coaching before, a lot of what we do is nervous system regulation, right? Having a safe place to talk, celebration, always celebrating what is working for you. Then we move into, what are you thinking? Like we bring in what's actually going on in your mind. You bring whatever problem you have each week. We solve that problem together. Then at the end of the call, we make a small, tangible action. And so every week you're taking action towards the thing that you want to create. And if you've never experienced somatic processing where you hold space for your emotion, I teach you a lot of tools to tap into holding space for yourself when the emotion is deep, when it's really hard, when you're feeling really triggered. I teach you how to regulate your own nervous system so you can do it when I'm not there. So you can do it when you're in an argument with your spouse, when something's going on at work, when something's going on in your business, when you look at your bank account and you're freaking out. I teach you how to move through that. So your next step is to book a free consultation. If you got any value out of this, that's the invitation. There's really nothing for you to lose in order to have a consult call. It's silly to me when I think about myself when I've waited and waited and waited. I remember, and I say this to say I understand. I remember I was going to hire this coach for one specific thing, and I followed her for, I think, a year. It was like 8 months to a year. And my thought was like, oh, I'm just going to, my thought was I'm going to ignore the problem. It'll go away. Like it'll get better with time. It did not get better with time. Okay. It did not get better with time at all. It felt worse. It felt worse until the point where I saw her on Instagram and I finally was like, oh, she knows the solution to my problem. I need to talk to her. And even when I booked the call, and this is how I know, like we get so in our heads and so in our stories, even when I booked at the call, I was like annoyed that I had the problem. I was like, I really just wish I didn't have this problem. And as I was telling her it at the end of the call, she's like, do you really want to solve this? Like because I was being so annoyed by having the problem. And she's like, and I was like, yeah, I do want to solve it. And so then I put my money where my mouth is. I worked with her for 9 months and I solved the problem. I am now able to experience emotions in my body I was not able to experience before. Whereas before, I would get so triggered, so dysregulated, so emotional. I'd have outbursts and I would be doing something I didn't want to be doing. I didn't know how to control it. So she helped me with that over a period of 9 months. So for you, if you're feeling that, if you're like, I just want to keep waiting, or you're like, I don't really know how this can help me, or you're like, wow, this is going to be way too expensive. I definitely can't do it. I want you to actually take the step for yourself. Because at the end of the day, maybe it is too expensive. Maybe you really can't do it. Maybe there's really not a solution. But wouldn't you just want to find out for reals? Wouldn't you just want to have that conversation and get some insight to be like, is this solution, like, is there a solution out there? And I say this to say, because this is the thing that I've been going through with my health for the past 2 years. I keep reaching out to people and I keep getting a nugget and a nugget and a seed and a seed and a nugget and a nugget. And I'm progressing and I'm making progress, right? I talked to a functional medicine practitioner. I hired a health coach. I reached out to a personal trainer. I got my labs tested. Like it's a 2 year process. But I'm not going to sit here anymore and be like, well, there's nothing I can do. I guess I'm 40 now. That's just not who I am. I don't think that's who you are either. I just think your brain has got you stuck in a rut and it feels like, oh, I just don't know. And so for you, if you're in that place, reach out, book a consult call. The second type of person is the person who is very much a high achiever, perfectionist, really, really, really has a hard time being vulnerable. This was me when I first started coaching. You have a hard time being vulnerable. You don't want anybody to see behind the perfect curated curtain. You don't want anybody to see that like it's an actual shit show behind there. You're an actual mess. And I know because this is where I was like the first time I went on a retreat in Bali, this is where I was. I didn't want anybody to see me. And I learned intimacy, which is into me I see. I learned vulnerability, which is I am going to put myself out there because I want to witness who I am. And I want other people to reflect back to me. I want to learn. Like I came here to get the transformation. So this is the same thing with booking the consult call. If you want the transformation, take an action that aligns with you getting transformation. There's no reason for you to be hyper independent. There's no reason for you to try to do it on your own. There's no reason for you to keep beating yourself up and keep trying the same thing over and over again. That's not going to fly. It's not going to work. And so the worst case is you come on the consult call, you cry a little, you feel very vulnerable. And then maybe you find out, okay, I see some things, I got some perspective. And maybe you find out it's not a good fit to work together. Like that's literally the worst case that can happen. The best case that could happen is you cry a little bit, you're vulnerable, you share, you open up, you're honest. Then you get a couple steps. You get some acceptance, you get non-judgment. You have somebody who's like, I get it. I've helped people with this before. We can do this. You can do this. Here's the plan. Here's what it looks like. And the best case is you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. And you get on your first coaching call. You already feel better. You already feel proud. You already feel more energized. You've already done more for yourself in a week than you've done in the past 6 months. And then it builds week by week by week. You get 3 months in and you're like, holy cow, look at what I've done. I'm so proud of myself. I'm learning how to be positive. I'm learning how to celebrate myself. I'm gaining traction. I'm gaining momentum. Like, look at what I've created. And then it just goes on and on and on and on from there. And this doesn't mean it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. There's going to be times where it's really hard, where you want to give up. But the difference is there's somebody there for you. Versus when you want to give up now, think about what you do. Buffer, stay up late, watch social media or on social media, online shopping, Netflix, buy things on Amazon, right? All things that aren't going to be beneficial for you. The power of life coaching is the power in having somebody there to help you change your story, change your state, and try new strategies until you get what you want over and over again. And you will get what you want with that consistency and becoming the person who is aligned with the things that you desire. So your invitation is to head to my website right now, book a completely free, no obligation consultation with me. Go to camikennedy.vip. That'll take you directly to my booking link. And let's have a chat. Let's have a chat. That's all it is. It's a deep dive. I'll do 3 things with you. I'll walk you through an assessment. We'll rate everything on a scale of 1 to 10. Then I will help you say, okay, what's going to get you from where you are to where you want to be? And then at the end, we'll decide, is it a good fit to work together? What does that look like? And you'll get to see in full transparency what it would be like to work together with me as your coach. All right. So dig in, dig deep. You have the capacity and ability to be resilient, but I'll tell you, it happens much more quickly when you have coaching. It happens much more quickly when you have accountability to show up every week, even when you want to hide in a hole, even when you are bummed out from because of your failures. And I'll tell you that this is what creates resilience over and over and over again. All right. I will talk to you soon.